seems to be that you're speaking in English.
Yes, please.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're reading from the Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, verse number 4. So, Na karmanam anarambam naishkarmyam purusho snute nachasanyasanat eva siddhim samadhi gacchati na karmanam anarambam naishkarmyam purusho snute nachasanyasanadeva siddhim samadhi gacchati. So, someone likes to try?
Nakarmanam anarambam naishkarmyam purushoshnuti nashasanyasanat alva siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Naishkarmyam purushoshnuti nachasanyasanadeva siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Mataji?
Nakarmanam anarvamam naishkarmyam purusho snute nachasanyasanat eva siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Okay. Na? Not. Karmanam? Of prescribed duties. Anarambat? By non-performance. Naishkamyam? Freedom from reaction. Purusha? Amen. Ashnute? Achieves. Na? Nor. Cha? Also. Sanyasanat? By renunciation. Eva? Simply. Siddhim? Success. Samadhi gacchati? Attains. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, says Dr. Prabhu. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Purport. The renounced order of life can be accepted when one has been purified by the discharge of the prescribed form of duties, which are laid down just to purify the hearts of materialistic men. Without purification, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the fourth order of life, sannyas. According to the empirical philosophers, simply by adopting sannyas or retiring from fruitive activities, one at once becomes as good as Narayan. But Lord Krishna does not approve this principle. Without purification of heart, sannyas is simply a disturbance of the social order. On the other hand, if someone takes to the transcendental service of the Lord, even without discharging his prescribed duties, whatever he may be able to advance in the cause is accepted by the Lord. Buddhi Yoga. Sva-alpa api yasya dharmasya trayate mahato vayat. Even a slight performance of such a principle enables one to overcome great difficulties. Okay. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu Bhutale Srimati Karamakaram Swami Tinani Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu Bhutale Prudashri Swami Tinani Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinani Namaste Saraswati Guru Brahmacharya Vishishwamari Vishvajyati Ishtadha Homa Yajna Siddhanjana Shulaka Homa Yajna Siddhanjana Shulaka Shakshurvatamena Tasmai Shri Guru Vyama Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swarupa Karamaya Dhavati Sabrantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Vrara Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Vanchakaka Trivasya Kripasamagari So we'll read the verse again. Na karmanam anarambam Naishkalyam purusho shnute Na chasanya sanadeva siddhim smadi gacchati. Translation. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. When I was first time hearing the verse, it remembered me on a really nice story from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Sanatana Goswami, I think the most of you heard from him, he was a really great saint. He was one of the 6 Goswamis, and he was doing a lot. He was writing many books. He established actually the principles of what we have of Bhakti Yoga, or etiquette, and what to follow. And when he was on the way to Jagannath Puri to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he got a disease in the jungle, the Jharkhanda forest, and with this disease, it was like an itching disease, and he felt then really unqualified. He felt, how can I go to Jagannath Puri, meet the Pujaris of Jagannath, or Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with this disease? I could also impurify them, and yes, and he was on the way to Jagannath Puri to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then when he was there, then he was so depressed because he had the desire when the Rath Yatra starts that he will throw himself before the Jagannath cart and give up his life because he didn't felt any more qualified to do devotional service. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he heard from that Sanatana Goswami wanted to give up his body and that he wanted to beget suicide because of this disease and because he felt himself so far. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said something really, really nice. I will read the shlokas. He said, unless one discharges devotional service, one cannot awaken one's dormant love for Krishna. And there is no means for attaining him other than awakening that dormant love. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna said, my dear Uddhava, nature through Ashtanga Yoga, the mystic yoga system for controlling the senses, not through impersonal monism or an analytical study of the absolute truth, nor through study of the Vedas, nor through austerities, charity, or acceptance of sannyas can one satisfy me as much as by developing unalloyed devotional service unto me. Anyone who takes to devotional service is exalted, whereas a non-devotee is always condemned and abominable. Therefore, in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord, there is no consideration of the status of one's life. I like this three shlokas very much because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is really much explaining that the most processes which the people are following or trying to get somehow self-realization or to become themselves God, or through Vanashram Dharma, becoming sannyasi, for example, like it is said in this verse, it's all useless if you don't get to the stage of devotional service, if you don't try somehow to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we can do so much austerities, we can perform so many yagyas, we can do so hard mystic yoga, we can do everything. We can try up and down, go to this universe, that universe, go to Brahmaloka, go completely down to the hellish planets. We can do whatever we want, but it's all useless. It don't has any value because it don't satisfy ourselves. It is just like it is really just empty because you don't develop this relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so he also says that even if you are dog eaters, even if you are completely fallen, even if you have no qualification, even if you can't actually do anything, we still can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the most people who are going through this whole process of austerities, of mystic yoga, and who are becoming scholars because they know so much about the Vedas and the Vedanta, they fail on that opportunity because they become too proud. Because they're just thinking of that this what they are doing is the most valuable thing because they never experienced that sweet rasa and taste of Krishna consciousness. And someone who is humble, but at the same time don't has many qualifications, is often the one who tries out, is often the one who is qualified to do it. And this is really interesting. And yes, but I also like really much after this, in the same chapter, there are also other shlokas. For example, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is always favorable to the humble and meek. But aristocrats, learned scholars and wealthy are always proud of their positions. One may be born in a Brahmana family and have all 12 Brahminical qualities, but if in spite of being thus qualified, he is not devoted to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who has a navel shaped like a lotus, he is not as good as a Chandala who has dedicated his mind, words, activities, wealth and life to the service of the Lord. Simply to take birth in a Brahmana family or to have Brahminical qualities is not sufficient. One must be a pure devotee of the Lord. Thus, if a Svapaka or Chandala is a devotee, he delivers not only himself, but his entire family, as well as a Brahmana, who is not a devotee but simply has Brahminical qualifications, cannot even purify himself, to want to speak of his family. So this is really interesting, this is also really nice. So that everyone can do something. So amazing that everyone can do something to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we can also see from many of our acharyas, from many stories what happened. Like also, for example, Prabhupada, when he was born in a really nice family, but he was 70 years old when he came to the Western countries and started to preach. And his health conditions were not so good. And it was not so easy for him, but he still did it because there's such a great love and such a great care for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And also it's really interesting when the story continued. And at some point, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was starting to tell to Sanatana Swami what I really much like is that He said,
Your
body is my property. You have already surrendered unto me, therefore you no longer have any claim to your body. Why should you want to destroy other properties? Can't you consider what is right and wrong? Your body is my principal instrument for executing many necessary functions. By your body, I shall carry out many tasks. You should have to ascertain the basic principle of a devotee: devotion, service, love of God, Vaishnava duties, and Vaishnava characteristics. And you like that the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is also a story that Srimad-Bhagavatam, before he was born, he was early Acharya, he was preaching a lot, and he made a huge amount of devotees. There was like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was the most time in Jagannath Puri, but he sent a lot of devotees, especially to Bengal, to preach. And for example, Advaita Acharya and Nityananda were preaching there. And at some point, Advaita Acharya started to preach impersonal philosophy. And everyone was, why is he doing that? What is the use? Like, he was turning a lot of people to impersonalists. And actually it's really, really interesting why he did it. And he did it because of the reason, because he wanted to show that as soon as the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like Nityananda, or he himself, and many others are leaving the world, who will continue preaching? What will happen when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes? What will happen when he's no more here? And so he did this big thing that he started to preach impersonal philosophy. At some point he then stopped to preach that, and he also sent a really nice, what means a really nice, but he sent also a letter to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he actually explained that like everyone is becoming mad for love of God. Like the most people cannot preach, the most people are becoming old, and it's not so easy for the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nityananda to do something. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he realized and stressed that okay, now love of God is like distributing like anything, like to the whole India, to the whole Bharat, and to Bengal and everywhere. But who will continue? And then he was thinking a lot about it. He was praying to Jagannath. It's prescribed really nicely. But at some point, he decided that, or he had a vision that one devotee, his name is Srinivas, would take birth again and would start to preach. And yes, then when he was born, he did a lot. He was preaching a lot, he was convincing kingdoms to devotees, and principally what he was doing with Narottam Das Thakur is that the books which the Goswamis were writing, which we know which are principal books, they took them and distributed all over Bengal, most probably, and all other countries. The difficulty was that they had to write these books with their hands, so there were no printing machines or stuff like this. It was like really difficult, and brahmanas would need to write these books, not just like really pure people. And so it's like really interesting, and they still did so much. They established also the Gaur Purim festival, huge festival. They preached really much with kirtan. They established actually our kirtan, like Narottam Das Thakur established our kirtan standards. That's really interesting, and also our Vedanga beats which we are learning are most of them coming from him. And yes, it's really, really nice what they did. And so then, after it went on with the preaching, and we can see in our Guru Parampara, the disciples of Narottam Das Thakur, they were doing also a lot of things. They were preaching and making a lot of devotees all over the world. And yes, so then after a long time they were preaching, then it went more and more like that there came a lot of Sampradayas and many like Sampradayas where they were following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu but not on the right way, but establishing their own philosophy and their own thoughts. But then Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura, he established the Gaudiya Math, and so he initiated our dear Srila Prabhupada, who then came to the West, who took it up to preaching and distributed it all over the world actually, even to India really much. Again, he established all that what we have, and all that is based, the most is based on the books, which is really interesting. I was really meditating about and thinking about. And all knowledge, every devotee which we have, and everyone who is a Vaishnava, if born Vaishnava or if not born Vaishnava, or however he came to Krishna consciousness, but still everyone who is a Vaishnava is actually just, or can be just a Vaishnava because there were some Vaishnavas before who were writing the books, who were giving us the books, and who were giving us the opportunity to read the books, to preach with these books, and to learn the knowledge of self-realization, to learn the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. And this is also what actually Prabhupada did the most. He just translated a huge number of books and gave a lot of purport so that we can really deeply understand Krishna consciousness. And often we forget how important these books are, but without these books we would not know much about Prabhupada, about our mission, about our charyas, and about our preaching. And yes, so also in this month it is so important to spread that knowledge, to give that knowledge to others, and to help others in that way. Because I also know it from my story. Actually, I was born like my mother became before I was born Vaishnava, but they only became a Vaishnava because my uncle bought the 4 books, and he started to share these books with his brothers, and he started to explain that knowledge to my mother. And only because of that nice opportunity, because Srila Prabhupada was writing these books and started to preach with his books, I got the opportunity, and every one of us actually, to go so deep in Krishna consciousness and to get such a deep science. This is unbelievable because these books, it is Bhagavad Gita, Srimad-Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the nice thing is, now it's not so difficult like before 500 years when our acharyas had to write it down with hands. We can just print the books easily, and we have a lot of books everywhere, and we can distribute it like anything. This is so nice. Even if sometimes I know that Sankirtan devotees are complaining about the prices of the books, but actually it's really cheap. It's so cheap in compared to 500 years before, when you need to wait so long that someone writes a book down, and then you could mostly only distribute it to kings, or like really distribute these books only, or mostly like to kings or to landlords who had like villages, and to influence people. But now we can give it to everyone, and everyone has access to this deep science of Krishna consciousness. And yeah, this is also what I actually wanted to speak about. The point is about next verses, where yes. The nice thing is, like what we learned before, that everyone is qualified to preach Krishna consciousness, or to get into Krishna consciousness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made it so easily available that we don't need to be a brahmana, we don't need to be a sannyasi, we don't need to do that process, that yoga, or this and that. Just by chanting Hare Krishna we can be so purified. So easily we can get purification. It is just attainable by one lifetime. Prabhupada said that we can go back to Godhead. This is, and even that we are getting like, that we can go to Goloka Vrindavan, not only to Vaikuntha, or not going into the impersonal Brahman, what is just dry, really dry. But we can get like deep relationship with Krishna. And this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us, and he gave it to everyone equally. And he distributes only if we have one thing, and this is faith. This is everything what we need. There are many songs of Narottam Das Thakur where he's prescribing also, or what Nityananda, it is said he is distributing the holy name on the marketplace and love of God to everyone who just has faith. And this is so nice, and everyone can do something. Some are some can go out, preach, some can cook really nicely, and they can distribute prasadam. And this is also preaching. Some are cleaning really nice, for example, the temple room or whatever, and this is also preaching because of our dressing the deities. Everyone who is coming here, every guest who sees the deities is starting to worship the deities. He's making a lot of benefits, that person, because he's worshipping the devotee who addressed the deities, and he's worshipping the deities. And also what is really nice, I found in High Bhakti Vilas a really nice verse. I think I have it here, where Sanatana Goswami is explaining something. Yes, Sanatana Goswami is explaining something really nice, because when I was on book distribution, I had a lot of difficulties, because I wasn't a big book distributor, and I couldn't distribute sometimes more, sometimes less, but in the last time, like, few books, and I was like thinking, doesn't make sense to go out distribute books. What is with these persons who are just like coming and looking at these books, or who are not taking the books, but or just who are passing by? Did they make any benefit? Does it make sense? And I read something really nice. Sanatana Goswami says, if a person directly or indirectly prizes a Vaishnava, he will soon become freed from all sinful reactions. Even if he was a drunkard, killed a brahmana, stole gold, or enjoyed sex with his spiritual master's wife. This was stated by the Lord Vishnu himself. Those who directly or indirectly glorify Vaishnavas easily cross over the ocean of material existence by the mercy of Lord Vasudeva. And it's really nice, because I experienced when we are really nice to the people on the street, or even here in the temple to the guests who are coming, or in general to the people, wherever. But especially in the street, I experienced myself that they're so happy about it. People are really happy, and one self gets a really nice feeling. And often I had that people are coming after a time back, or I had, for example, one guy, I was approaching him, and he was really nasty. He was nasty like anything. And I was just nice to him. I was like really nice to him. And after 20 minutes, he came back. He was like really sorry for that. He said, I had a really bad day. I'm so sorry that I was so nasty to you. And he said, what have you here in the hands? I showed him the books, and he took some. Like, just because I was nice, and I really felt like, and I had it a few times in Sankirtan, and this, I really then experienced that, how much the people are making benefit, just because we are nice to them. And because of that, then, when they're going away, I don't know, but he was most probably thinking, okay, he's a nice guy, or whatever. And because of that, he made so much benefit, like it is prescribed here, that he could come back, take a book, even if he was nasty, he could come back, take a book, and read the book. It's so nice. I get a deeper sense. And yeah, therefore, and everyone can do something, even if it is a small thing. For Krishna, the most important. For Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when I read like instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what always sticks to my head is how important it is just to this humility, humbleness, how nice it is, and how important it is to be like just so humble. And also when I read about the acharyas, the books where it's prescribed the stories how they were living, it was just based on a lovingly, really careful exchange. Everyone was just caring of each other in such a pure and such a warm attitude. It's so nice. It's like when one reads it, one gets like, one feels like really like warm in the heart. It's really nice. And yes, I think this is the most great preaching. If we are nice to the people, if we try to somehow uplift the people with our example. If they see, okay, these Hare Krishnas, they're so nice, they're so great persons, and then we can try our best to distribute a lot of books, or a few books, whatever we can. Some can do more, some can less. But if we behold a nice attitude, then Nityananda will bless us, and he will give us a lot of blessings, that we can do something for him. And this is, yes, this is more or less what I wanted to say. maybe someone likes to add something, or maybe someone has some questions or comments.
Yes, I have one. Just a second. Maybe you can repeat the question.
You want to
Oh, no, it's okay. So it's working. I wanted to ask if you can share a little bit about your experience also in connection to this verse of renunciation that you felt like renunciation and book distribution. If you have some stories or like some experiences.
Renunciation, book distribution. A book distribution is renounced. It's really, it's especially when you're traveling in a van, cold weather, no bedroom in the van, no bath in the van. What do you mean with renunciation and book distribution? You mean like, what do you mean exactly? I don't get the
I mean that here Krishna is saying not by renunciation alone one can attain perfection, yeah? But sometimes also we see that renouncing in some ways it also brings a lot of benefits, and it is some kind of renunciation to be in the van or like to be out in the streets for many long hours and cold, and sometimes also be people aggressive like we were sharing. But also we see that it brings some benefits. So if you could share something on that regard.
Yes, so what I'm thinking, like we can be either the servants of Krishna, we can be the servants of the senses. And renunciation is actually really important, because we need to renounce for particular things so that we can get, one can say, access to other things. For example, on book distribution, when we are, it helps a lot. I realized it when I was traveling, like on the beginning, we are like still more attached to things like if it is nice food or if it is that or that, like outwardly things. But if we get like more easy, if we get like more comfortable with just what is coming and just what is there, then it is more easy to distribute more books or to just be satisfied in oneself. Also what I realize here, for example, when one is more, for example, with eating, when one is eating too much and overeating, it is really difficult to chant, it is really difficult to absorb, it is really difficult to read and get really deep into the meaning of the scriptures or think about it. Or also other things, when our mind is completely like thinking of that and here, and I want to enjoy that, or I want to go here, or this and that. It's like, this just like putting stones in our ways. It's just putting something, blocking our way to go to Krishna, because it's like always some other things which are not completely related to Krishna. And so it is then really difficult to come closer to Krishna when we are not really, or when it's more difficult to renounce particular things. But renunciation alone is like not the most important thing, because renunciation, I also experienced that, it can make us like really dry. It can make us like, okay, it's just me, my box, and I do my thing, and this is like, oh, okay, I eat less, I do this, I sleep less, and at some point it can even really much disturb us, and we can like lose this soft-heartedness. Our heart becomes then often like a stone, and also relationships with people can also break through that. So it is like to have a balance of both. If we are too much renounced, then it's difficult to be soft-hearted. It is not so easy to be. And this is also needed in book distribution. So often then I experienced when I was too renounced in book distribution, then it was also sometimes even more difficult for me to be on this friendly, to be like really friendly with the people, because you have to come a little bit closer to them. But at the same time, I also have the experience that you get like really in Tamagu, you get like it's really difficult to do something. It's really difficult to yes, get out and push oneself to try to satisfy Krishna. And yes, or for example, for devotees, what I think the best renunciation is to chant more rounds. This is like to chant extra rounds, or to read extra much more. Because I don't know if it is so necessary to do this renunciation, for example, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just neglected. This yoga and that and here and there, but chanting extra rounds and reading my experiences, when you do that, you automatically become more renounced and you have no interest in other things. But you're more like, you just want to do more and more and more. And at the same time, this renunciation is not making you dry. It's not making you like that you're just in your box and want to be a renunciate, but it makes you like really warm-hearted person. You like others, you get like more happy, you have a closer relationship with Krishna, and yes, I think this is the best renunciation for devotees. Just to chant extra rounds and read more. And my experience also, when I do that, I also distribute better books. I also do my service much more better. I also do everything around us. Everything is actually just based on chanting and reading the sadhana. But we should not only be like, because many then get the mentality of, okay, I just chant, I just read, and I don't do anything else. Then it's like also not the best thing. It needs to be always a balance of both. But yeah. I don't know if I answered somehow with or helped the question.
Yeah, sure. If I can comment for me, even more of a renunciation of chanting more rounds is chanting quality rounds.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a nice lecture. So this translation, when we read, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. The translation for me, it was by English it was a bit difficult to understand. So if I understood it right, and if I make it simple, does this mean that I abstain from work and I abstain from work and then I also renounce, but these two are not sufficient for attaining perfection in life? Is this correct?
Yeah, work, I mean, renunciation, work, both can be really important, but at the same time also not so much important. But we should not like neglect our work. For example, if you have a family, if you have children, if you have to give them, to provide them, to give them something to eat, if you have to give them education opportunities, this is our duty. And if you neglect like this kind of duties, then Krishna will be not really much pleased with us. And then we will need most probably to go again to that purification, again to that difficulty in school to learn it, so that we can again that we can come closer then to Krishna. But work, if it is unnecessary, we have to see which work is necessary, which is unnecessary. Because there are also works and there are also duties which are not really, maybe not our duties, because to do a duty which is not based on our vana or our ashrama can also be like really dangerous, or to do a duty for someone else, or to abstain or to renounce work which is necessary, which is our duty, then this is also the same difficult or even more difficult. So one needs to see. And renunciation is also, like you see, we have many in our movement, renounced people, sannyasis who are so advanced on such a high platform. But it's like not the goal of life. Renunciation alone, it's just actually a tool. Both of them is just a tool. Like when you have a hammer and want to build something or whatever, it's just something what should help you to come closer to Krishna. But if it is not doing that, then it's unnecessary. Then it's not so important.
So the one can attain perfection. So this word perfection means to attain, like, can you say that in simple terms? Like, I know that we say Krishna Prema or go back to God, but I mean in simple terms, what does perfection in a layman's language, what does one attains perfection? What does that mean?
I would say to get a relationship with Krishna,
Okay.
to come closer to him, to get a loving relationship with him. Everyone has a different relationship, and to come back to the stage that one says, okay, I really want to serve Krishna. Whatever, where I am, if I'm here in the spiritual world or here and there or whatever, but just like to really get a relationship with him. I think the most important thing. This is the real perfection.
Thank you.
I wanted to answer to this question as well, because you said again, like, love in relation to God. And I think when you start to have a relation to God, you see God in everybody, because He sits as paramount in the heart. And so you start maybe a loving relationship with everybody. So first Krishna, because He's just perfect and you can just love Him unconditionally, because He never makes faults, He's always with you. And this feeling you cultivate in your heart and then you transmit it to everybody and everything.
Sure, yes.
In addition.
It's nice. Everyone who has a deep relationship with Krishna has also a deep relationship with everyone else. Sure.
I can feel it here with the devotees.
Something else?
Yes, I have. Nobody else has. In the purport there's a quite, I would say, famous quote from Srimad-Bhagavatam that is quoted many times. Without purification of heart, sannyasa is simply a disturbance to the social order. I would like to ask if you would like to comment on that.
Here, without purification, one attains success.
No, without purification of heart, sannyasa is simply a disturbance to the social order. It's more or less in the middle of the purport.
Second line.
Second line.
Not line, second sentence.
Purification of the heart. I don't know if I'm right when I answer this question, but the first thing is what, when I just hear that, what for me comes in my mind is the difference of someone who is taking sannyas because he wants to serve Krishna, like for example Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, or if one is taking sannyas because he wants to get just impersonal liberation in this life, doing it more of, one can say even of sense purification or of the reason of oneself, just to get benefit of oneself. This is like the thing what I'm thinking. Because the devotee he's getting purification of heart, especially when he's chanting Hare Krishna, and we can see here everyone, that every devotee, for example, I can see like, as long as they're staying here or as long as they're serving here, automatically they get purified of the heart. But there are like also many, especially in India, sometimes we can see sannyasis who are taking sannyas, but they're not really sannyasis. And they're taking sannyas because of also materialistic reasons, because they want to have more money, they want to have more like material, material position, or many are like dressing as sannyasis, begging for money or this and that, and then going at home and dressing different again, but they're no more sannyasis. And so it's also about how sincere one is, if one is really doing it. Because I saw it when I was in India, in Vrindavan, and also even in Mayapur, I saw sannyasis who were not like sannyasis. Sannyasis with their families, sannyasis with their wife, and such things. And I think this is because people are respecting them as sannyasis. If someone sees them and sees them in dress of sannyasi, he's thinking, okay, he's a sannyasi. He's offering obeisances and taking instructions or giving them something or whatever, or rendering service. But they're just rascals, so to say, sannyasis, and they didn't want to do that purification. And this is actually really sinful to do that. But yeah, maybe it's have somehow, maybe not. But this is what I'm thinking when I hear that sentence. Something else? Srimad-Bhagavatam ki? Srimad Prabhupada ki?